Hey there, it's Kristen. And before we dive into today's episode, I have a tiny favor to ask. I'm planning some exciting stuff this year for the podcast and my courses, and I would really love your input. I put together a super quick survey. It's mostly multiple choice and shouldn't take you more than a few minutes. Your feedback will directly shape the content I create this year, so I can make sure it's exactly what you need to thrive in your business without the hustle. Because I know your time is precious, everyone who completes the survey gets entered into a giveaway where 2 lucky winners will get a $50 gift card to Amazon or Target, your choice. It's just a little thank you for helping me make this year on the show the best yet. Head over to kristendoyle.co/survey, or you can find the link in the show notes. The giveaway ends on April 14th, so don't wait too long. I am thrilled to have Jarrett Vaucher joining me today again for the second time. Jarrett and his wife, Beth, created Your Data Playbook, which helps TPT sellers understand and use our data to drive strategy and results for growing our TPT stores. Jarrett is the business mind behind YDP, as we call it, and he loves using data as a strategic tool to help TPT sellers succeed. In today's episode, we are talking about some specific ways that you can use your TPT data to drive your decision-making and increase your sales. We'll also be talking about YDP's amazing new keyword research tool that I have been waiting on pins and needles for, and how you can use it to really know which keywords you should be targeting for SEO in your products. Jarrett and I always have a ton to say once we get started, so let's get right to it. Hey TPT sellers, ready to see growth in your business? You're in the right place. Welcome to the Savvy Teacher Seller. I'm Kristen Doyle, and I'm here to give you no-fluff tools and strategies that will really make an impact on your sales. Let's get started, y'all. Hi, Jarrett. Thank you so much for being here.
Hi, Kristen. It's so great to be with you. I think this is my second time. I'm still as jittery as the first, though, but I'm so excited to be here. Thanks.
It is your second time. You are my first repeat guest. So that's fun. By request, when I asked people who they wanted to be a guest on the show, one of the requests, in addition to some new people, was more Jarrett, please.
Wow. I feel humbled and honored. Thank you.
So no pressure.
No pressure.
But you need to be amazing.
Right. Thank you. But we gotta think of an excuse. If it's not amazing, what do we go with? I don't know. You just got back from Italy, right? You just got back from Italy?
It's my fault because I'm jet lagged right now. It'll be fine. Well, I am super excited to dive into data with you a little bit more today. I know we've talked about data a lot in the past, and you know, and probably all of my listeners do too, that data is something I'm pretty passionate about using to help grow my TPT business. So I know we have a lot of things on our list of topics we were brainstorming. So let's dive straight into some ways sellers can use their TPT data to really increase their sales. And one of my favorites is using my data to help me figure out what price I should be using for all my different resources. So can we talk about that first?
Yeah, we could spend the whole half. I think we have about 30 minutes, right?
Yeah.
So we could spend the time just going into that. So I love the pricing conversation. I think pricing as it is one of the biggest bangs for your buck in terms of your time. So you get the biggest return on investment for pricing.
And the time spent is so short compared to other things you can do. I mean, I can look at my data and adjust a price in a minute or less.
Yeah, that's the beautiful thing, especially for people who are still in the classroom or, they don't have a team. So what's one of the biggest actions that you can take in terms of optimizing your revenue or optimizing your earnings? Huge wins if you're willing to take a risk. I know we could go into some mindset and talk about like, hey, how you think about pricing, because a lot of people get scared about it because it's novel. But I think one of the biggest things to think about when changing price is really, it ultimately depends on demand, right? I think so. That's the key thing, is thinking about when to change a price. So if you have a product that has a really high conversion rate, how do you look at your products and how do you decide, for example, Kristen, you look at a product that has a super high conversion rate and then adjust it accordingly. And that's one of the most common questions I get is like, when to change the price? Is that where you find as well? You handle that question?
That is one of the first places I look is conversion rate to see how is it converting? Is it overperforming conversion wise compared to the rest of my products?
Yeah, and that I think that's the key thing. So it depends on demand, and one of the strongest signals of demand is conversion, right? And that's the beautiful thing. We think about it. It's like it's the amount of people that see my product and purchase my product, and that's a good signal. And so another thing that I often hear is like, well, what's a good conversion rate? You get that too, and so that's something. And again, it's understandable, but the reality is that the conversion rate can vary by price level. So obviously lower priced items typically have a higher conversion rate than higher priced items. It's just pure economics, right? So taking that into your consideration about like how you optimize for price. One example is like, I'll give that's fresh on the mind is like, what's a good conversion rate? Well, it depends on price, like I just said. So like a $3 product, right? On average, when we look at YDP data, and essentially 10% is an average conversion rate for a $3 product. So you're above that, and let's say the top performers, top performers that we see when we analyze all like the 300,000 products that we have in the membership, what we see is like the top performers are between 10 and then 15% and beyond. So if you're in that threshold of like 10 to 15% or beyond, that's a good indication that, hey, that $3 product, you should start trying to change the price. So I think figuring out that threshold is, okay, a $3 price is 10%, and then anything beyond 15 is like you're crushing it and you're leaving money on the table. One of my favorite examples of that was someone who had a $3 product, and it was like, I think the conversion rate was like 24%. And it's like, hey, what? And it was a seasonal product. Yeah, it was a Christmas. I was like, so if you change this price, let's just test it. And so she ended up selling an extra 1,000 units of that product during Christmas. And so she essentially made an extra $1,000 just for that $1 price increase. That's some quick money, right? So that's the value you're talking about. Go back to the initial outset, the comments. Like, you can drive a lot of value pretty quickly with understanding when to change those prices. And again, it's going back to conversion. And just to give you like the other side of the spectrum, so like you have a $3 price point, and then like the high end, like $200 and above, you're talking a good average price point, maybe like 1.5%. And then like the top performers are above 2.5%. So if you're in that range of 1.5 to 2.5 at that $200 or above, like, then you honestly have room to squeeze more out of that product.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And at that higher price range, even a small increase, percentage-wise increase in your price could result in a pretty big increase in how much you're actually earning.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen some people are going a little aggressive, like, like, hey, it's $200 and it's up 4%. I'm going to raise it to, let's say, 250, 300. So they'll raise it 30%, 40% on one. So I think how I would recommend to, again, going into like, I think it's a natural next question is, okay, like if I want to raise my price, how much should I raise it by? Yeah. And we generally recommend, like, a good rule of thumb is 5 to 10%, right? When making pricing changes, is like, it's better to make small adjustments first, monitor the results, and see how that impacts your earning and like how your market responds to that change, right? Because every market can be different, and it depends on how competitive it is, how unique your product is, how demand. So I would just say, don't get stuck on like, oh, I don't know how much to change it by, but I think err on the side of being more conservative. And then you just get it out there to see how the market responds. And then if you see it responds well, like positively, then you can go ahead and make another change. But I get nervous when people are like, okay, I want to raise it $100. I'm like, oh my God.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah. I mean, and people have had success. I guess I'm more conservative or calculated in that regard. So I guess that if you're going to take it, how in your experience, have you been very aggressive, or are you more like, do you make small adjustments? How do you do it?
I usually go around 10%, somewhere around there. Every now and then, when you find that random product that you've been ignoring for the last little while and haven't been looking at, and you realize like it gets a lot of traffic and my conversion rate is like 40%, then
Holy cow.
okay, I might jump the price up a good bit more, because that's an
It's
insanely
crazy.
high conversion rate. And I've had one or two of those. It's usually a product that I just don't think about very much.
Yeah.
It might not even be like a bestseller, but it gets enough traffic that I can trust my conversion rate. And so if it's that high, I should probably raise the price. And I find it so interesting that sometimes you raise the price and you end up selling more of them. I think it's
Right.
a value perception thing.
Amen to that. Yeah, that's a really good point. Value perception is huge. So it's all about because usually you think as you increase the price, you're going to be, each customer spends more, right? But you have less customers that are willing to pay that price. But sometimes, like you're saying, it's the value, the value perception, and it goes back to like the willingness to pay. Again, economics, the concept is like willingness to pay is basically how much the maximum amount someone is willing to pay. But if actually your product looks more valuable to some people, you're always going to have that segment of the market that's willing to go after the best product, like whether that's a luxury purse or a luxury car. Like, and you can position yourself to be a luxury product in TPT as well. So I find those cases very, very intriguing, and I've seen multiple times where that happened. I'm like, I just scratch my head. So obviously, branding comes into that, right? And how you position your product is that, I think that's what you're saying. Like in terms of like how do you position it, covers, thumbnails, etc. Like that, is that how you, in your experience, what you see?
Yeah, a lot of times. I think it comes down to how good does your product look? Does it look worth that, extra amount? No. One of my favorite things to tell people about pricing is prices are not permanent. Because I think as sellers, for some reason, we have in our minds that we set a price and this is the price and it just is what it is. But prices are not permanent. So like you said, make a small change, 5 to 10%, watch your data, come back, tweak it again. It doesn't have to even stay at the price you changed it to.
Exactly.
And on the flip side, if you realize if you've raised your price and you're selling, it's totally normal, like you said, to sell fewer, but you earn more because your price is higher. That's a good outcome.
Yep.
Sell more, earn more is an even better outcome, but that's not as common. But every now and then we do push too far on a product, and we realize that we're selling less, but we're also earning less at the higher price. And so the fix for that, I mean, I know that's the fear that we all have, right? Is that I'll earn less. The fix is easy. You go back in and you drop your price back.
Yep, totally. That's well said. I think we drink from the same water cooler on that one for sure.
Yeah. I tend to push it until I hit that point and then back up.
And then you hit it. Okay, yeah, I just see my conversion hit, and then you pull it back. Yeah, no, like that's a good way to approach it. The thing about mindset around pricing, what you just mentioned, is really, it's like this. Jeff Bezos, when he's the ex-CEO, now the chairman of Amazon, he says, like, in business, there are A and B decisions, right? So A decisions are like you can walk through a door and it shuts behind you, and you can't go back through that. You can't revisit it, right? Where the B decisions are like a revolving door at a hotel. And like, in New York, you could go, they're always rotating and circling around. And so that's the same way we need to think about pricing, is that it's not permanent, that we can revisit it. But I think it's the fear of loss, right? Because we as humans and our human psyche, we're more conditioned to fear loss. We're more risk averse to loss than, hey, I already know I'm making this much and I'm okay with that. But when you think about, flip it on its head and ask, like, well, how much are you actually leaving on the table by not trying and raising prices, right? So like if that's $5,000 and a year on one product just because you sold, hey, imagine if you sold that volume. Let's say you have a product that sells 5,000 times a year and you raise it $1, right? That's $5,000 extra. And that's
$5,000.
So that's the benefit.
A vacation.
That is a vacation. Yeah.
Right? A good vacation.
That's another Italy trip, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think mindset shifts is like, again, that flexible adjuster price, like you said. And then, being able to like track it and identify, I think, what are the biggest things so that you can optimize, and having that data-driven approach will help you to making sure that you're delivering that value to customers, but also not selling yourself short. I think coming into the TPT world and being an outsider but married to a teacher and learning more about working and loving working with you guys, I think one of the things that I've seen as a common pattern is that you guys tend to underprice your products. I think you undervalue your work. I think that's hard, but I think generally I see people underprice more than they overprice.
Yeah, I do too. And there are exceptions, of course, I'm sure, but I feel like as a whole, we do tend to underprice. And maybe some of that is undervaluing our own work. I honestly feel like a little bit of that comes from just teacher mindset because we've been conditioned for so long that our work is only worth this much. And it's so much less than so many other professions. And of course, wanting to serve our audiences who don't make that much money.
Yep, absolutely.
So there's that piece of it to be sensitive to as well.
Yeah, so it's like having that in the balance, I think is a good call out. So it's like who you're serving, yeah, your customers, obviously, especially in moments right now where the economy is a little bit battered, and then like recessionary fears. So I think that's huge, and then the other component of like, having your work as a professional, maybe told that it wasn't as valued as other professions, even though education is by far the bedrock of society. Like if without education, like
There's nothing else.
Yeah, I agree with that. But yeah, I think so. Try to figure out what's a good happy place and a good medium for you to balance those three things. Because you want to value your work, but at the same time you want to serve and create value for your customers, but at the same time not to your own detriment for undervaluing your work. So
yeah, exactly. And I think it all comes back to using your data and looking at it on a regular basis so that as you adjust, your data will tell you when you go too far.
Yep.
It will absolutely tell you when you have outpriced your market.
Yep, absolutely. And I think too that we're looking more into with that as we're learning more about the data and the market is there are seasons around the year when there's higher conversion rates because demand is higher, right? Back to school, for example. So like we've tested having like low season prices versus high season prices for the same product to see how that particularly, and it's worked well. But just understanding because there's different points in the year where demand is higher. So how do you capture on that? Again, that's a very airline business optimization standpoint. And the data will tell you that as well.
Yeah. And our stuff is very seasonal too. So I can see that working. That's something I have not played with, but I'm really intrigued and I'm going to have to try it now. As you were talking, I had specific products rolling through my mind. So I'm going to have to give that a try especially like this spring leading into summer, getting ready for back to school season.
Absolutely. I tested with a couple. I'd love to hear what happens and give me your feedback on that.
I will, for sure. Well, let's shift gears just a little bit from pricing. I know we could probably keep talking about pricing for another hour, but
yes, it's a fun
let's
topic.
shift gears a little bit. One other thing I love to do with my data is use it, and this is probably the thing I do most, to figure out which products need updates.
Got it.
And for me, that kind of goes two ends of the spectrum. I have top sellers that really should be selling even more than they currently are if I tweaked some things. And I know this kind of goes back to that mindset of being okay with how much I'm currently selling and being afraid of the risk of changing things.
Yep.
But in my experience, most of the time when I change things, it sells more because I'm using my data and I'm making the right changes. And on the flip side, just like pricing, you can always switch it back. If I change my cover and thumbnails and I'm suddenly selling less, well, I've got the old ones because you don't delete them, right? We're all digital hoarders who don't delete anything.
Yeah.
So you pull the old ones back out and you put them back up.
Yep. Well said. It's just true. I mean, I think that one of the biggest things that we saw is the impact of a preview, right? I think did I say this last time? But it's like the products that don't even have a preview versus the products that do, they convert on average 13% better. So how much, obviously your best sellers, if they don't have a preview, like that's like top order of business, right?
Put a preview on it.
I'm sure at this point you do though. So yeah, I think if top sellers, you want them to sell more. And again, if you think about the role of product like optimization or product listing, it's like, how do you take people from the search result and get them to purchase and think about the path of the customer journey to get them there, right? So like, how to optimize that journey? It's like, okay, the cover, I need to make sure that stands out, that I stop the scroll and I get the click through, right? And so, hey, if you're looking at the ratio of people that are seeing your product and actually clicking, now we can have some perfect data set from TPT. I would love some more data on impressions, et cetera. Like, yeah, you know what
We
I'm
can
talking
all
about?
dream. We can all dream. I do know what you're talking about.
So yeah, but like, so thinking about like, okay, how can I make the cover better? And I know people that are clicking on my cover, then actually going to my preview. The whole thing is I need to get people to look at my cover, thumbnail, and use your thumbnails as this bridge to get them to that preview. And if you get them to that preview, the probability of conversion goes up dramatically. So stop the scroll, pop out the search, get them to click on your cover, and then give them that micro conversion. So think about those micro conversion. The first micro conversion is you want them to click on your cover. The second micro conversion is you want them to click on your thumbnails so they get more information to go check out preview. And then once you have a well-crafted, persuasive preview, the probability, like I said, it just goes up dramatically. So thinking about that, the probability to finish my preview, I just jumped ahead. The probability of conversion goes up dramatically.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's it. That's the exciting part and understanding that value. So if you see like a top performer where you have a ton of traffic, but we know, and I get it, and why do people talk about the concept of like preview to purchase rate? So how many people are actually looking at my preview and purchasing? And then that ratio. And so, and if you have a low ratio of people that are actually doing that, so that's the middle of the funnel, right? That's the awareness, that's the consideration phase. If you had that, you could say, hey, how can I increase the middle of the funnel, my preview to purchase rate, or that ratio? So if I have 1 in 10 people that are clicking on my preview and then purchasing, can I double that to 5 in 10? And that ultimately will drive conversion up substantially. If you could think about just that one component of a preview. I mean, and you can talk about, there's so many other aspects, but just thinking about that from a bestseller standpoint. But again, if you're not even getting them to that preview, obviously you have more work to do on your title, for example, or your cover, because you want them. But in this case, it doesn't sound like that, right? Because you have a product that's selling really well, and now you just want to convert and sell more. So it's not a traffic issue, right?
Yeah. So then it's. I mean, maybe it could be a traffic issue. I guess it's selling really well, but could it get more traffic? Could my preview convert better? And that really is where looking at that data comes into play, where you have to see what the numbers are saying. Am I getting tons of traffic, but my preview rate is low, or my preview to purchase ratio is low? In which case, what can I do to increase those things?
Exactly.
If those are high, but I'm not getting as much traffic as maybe I should, then how can I get more people to this product listing? Is it SEO? Is it marketing? Is it, what can I do?
If it's a traffic issue, you really have a couple options, right? It's like, okay, SEO obviously is organic, it's cheap, and it's, it's one of those things that is evergreen. You don't have to work hard for it. You have to work hard to get on those top results, right? Right. But once you're there, it's ongoing versus so you can either do the organic side or you can do the paid side. The paid side, obviously, it's like a sugar rush. You can get traffic fast, but it's not sustainable.
Right. You have to keep paying for it.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think the traffic one, it seems like in light of everything that's going on with personalized search and now that rolling back, we'll see how it all pans out. But I know for us this last year, we're up about 30%. And our pages are up about 40%, but we've never spent as much money on paid advertising ever.
It's taking a lot more to get there right now.
Yeah, it's taking a lot more. It's moving a heavy truck. So again, that's why I cannot overemphasize the importance of SEO. If that's the best long-term strategy, but if you need to get eyes on a product fast, obviously SEO is harder to get traction if it's a super concentrated or competitive market.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's so important to balance those two. For me, SEO is the non-negotiable. We've got to do that part because we need organic traffic. We need to get people there that I don't have to pay for. But sometimes when it is in season or when there's a lot of competition or whatever, then taking a little trip to the traffic store, aka Facebook ads, is exactly what we need.
I love that. I love that saying. Take a trip to the tavern. That's great. I love it. Yeah, no, exactly. And then you have the perpetual email list, right? That's an asset you own. So regardless of algorithm changes, that's super valuable for any business, any size. So top sellers always try to push especially seasonally, you want to make sure you're hitting up your email list. And then revising your SEO strategy, like looking at it, and then looking at like relevant terms that are trending, I think is also big, right? So if you see a shift in the terms that like the last 3 days, last 60 days, you're looking at what suggestions are showing up. That's a good way to say, hey, like, can I upgrade, who Neil Patel is. I was listening to a recent podcast or a webinar with, and he said like, how is AI going to change SEO? So he's talking about that, but then it's like, the biggest thing is just like, again, it's nothing new under the sun. It's just relevancy. So how can we understand what is relevant right now and make sure that our best sellers are continuing to target the most relevant terms, and it'll help accelerate that and help do that, some of that learning for us. So without getting super into detail on that, but yeah, I think this is relevancy and understanding what's trending and being willing, again, to get out of the comfort zone and saying, hey, this keyword has always worked for me. Am I willing to try and test a title change for this particular season? Again, you and I know, like, not talking about keyword stuffing here. We're talking about legitimate.
Yeah. We're not talking about being shady and putting keywords on that don't apply and any of those things. But looking at, have the keywords for what I have created, the good, solid keywords for this, have they shifted? Is the way that teachers are talking about this type of product changing? Because we all know that in education, trends come and go. And half the time when the new trend comes, it's the same as the old trend. It just has a new name.
Yes.
So we need to adjust and adapt to that. Speaking of which, by the time this episode airs, YDP will be open for enrollment. And there are some pretty exciting new things you have going on. I want to talk about those. And one of them is the keyword research tool. Can you talk a little bit about how we can use that?
Yeah. So that tool is relatively new, and it's honestly about identifying what terms are showing up in the keyword suggestion box. So when you type in a keyword on TPT, you see the different suggestions, right? And the purpose of that is basically to help buyers match. So buyers are the demand side to help with the supply. So say, hey, buyer, you're typing in this, and this is the supply that I have to help make the market, right? So right. And search is all about connecting supply and demand, right? You need keywords self-connected. So what we've done is just created a tool to help track suggestions over time and tell you which ones are most popular by the amount of times that they show up at any given period of time.
Which is so helpful, because the big downfall with looking at those search terms is they change day to day.
Yes.
And from looking at them, you can't tell if something is just popular today or if it is always popular, unless you're going to go in and do all that yourself, which no one has time for. So I know I am personally very glad that you figured out how to do this.
Yeah. I mean, I thought of you specifically. I know
we've been talking about this for a long time.
Yeah. So it's something that, I'm excited to be able to partner with you on and continue to flush it out. And so the whole four really main use cases essentially is, like we just talked about, updating keywords and updating your products with the most relevant keywords. So you actually can see how those keywords are trending over time to see what is most popular. And hey, is this just a fad for a day, or is this have staying power? Is this here for the last 30 days, last 60 days? Hey, is it actually here the last year? Okay, I probably should update this term. So that is updating, especially on products that, like, again, top sellers. Hey, I need to update them, but also those that have fallen off, right? You see that they're bleeding, and you're like, hey, how do I recover some of that page views? So that's a good way to upgrade and make those terms more relevant in your titles and descriptions. And then another one is for like new product creation. Maybe there's a term that you can track. You can see different terms that show up that you never even thought of before. And so that helps with product creation. It's like, oh, wait, really? People are searching for that? And then it's either adding that term.
I'll see a term show up in my keyword tool that isn't the right term for the product I'm searching for, but it's close enough related that it shows up under, the same maybe root word. And a lot of times that triggers a really great new product idea. And the nice thing about that is it's a new product idea right in line with the things you already sell. So your audience is probably ready to buy those sorts of things. It's a perfect way to branch out and come up with some new ideas for what else you can be creating.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's like, it's either, I think that's the third use case, is like you have new product creation, like, oh, I have a gap and there's a market here and I didn't realize it. or it's like repositioning existing products and to adjust to that. So again, that's kind of related to number one, and then the last case is like really content planning, like understanding what's popular by time of year to then be able to plan for like, hey, how are you going to launch products, or how are you going to market products, or, it types them to your traffic systems like blogging, emailing, and just like planning back to school. Like, so again, it's just super helpful to have a visibility to understand what's trending by month and then what keywords are unique for that particular month. So that's the 4 use cases, and that's where it's at right now. And there's more ideas from feedback coming in the pipe, but that's where it's at right now.
I love it. I am so excited it's out for everybody now and that it's made its way out of beta, because I loved having it, but it's so exciting that it's out for everybody now too. And just gives us so much more information that we can use, and so much more valid than just looking at what shows up in those drop downs. Definitely has helped me decide between a couple of keywords that, I see a couple that come up in the drop downs when I'm searching, but I can use my data there to be able to tell like really which one is more popular.
Yes, that's super helpful. That's the question. That's the problem. Okay, which one is more popular? If you have both that are competing, it helps with that. But it's great, but there is no like perfect solution in our environment, unfortunately.
No, there's not. I don't think we will ever have anything like Uber Suggest or anything that can give us a true difficulty score and amount of volume and all of that. When TPT is listening, they could maybe help us.
Hopefully that,
we would love it.
Yes, please. It'll be worth it.
Right?
Yeah.
But it's such a good step in terms of having some good data about keywords and which ones we should be using. So I am obviously super excited about that one because SEO is my thing, and I love talking to people about how they can use the keyword tool now that it's out for everybody. We've been talking about that some in my coaching program. All right. And they're loving it too.
Good. I'm excited to work with you on that, figure out how we can make it better. And we want to empower you guys and make your jobs easier and obviously more successful. And we get excited and motivated by seeing other people have success. And so, that's really what is the driving force. So it's fun to see that, okay, hey, this is working and people are finding value from it. So excited for next steps.
I am too. I'm excited to get in and do some stuff with you guys. Well, thank you again so much for being here for a second time on the podcast. I always love to talk data with you, as you know. So always fun to have these conversations. And I know everyone appreciates all of your valuable insights and everything that you do for the TPT community.
Hey, well, it's good being here, Kristen. I love talking with you as well. It's always fun. Lots of laughter. And I gotta keep drinking some liquids because my throat is parched. But we always run out of time, right? I think we could do like a 2-hour or a podcast marathon. So grateful to be here. Thanks, and it's fun working and talking with you and sharing insights and knowledge and serving the community together. So thanks.
Thank you. Thanks for listening to today's episode. I hope you found our discussion with Jarrett insightful and gained some valuable tips on how you can use data to drive your TPT store's success. Don't forget to check out Your Data Playbook at kristendoyle.co/YDP to learn more about how YDP can help you use your data to drive your TPT sales. Plus, take advantage of their brand new keyword research tool to make the most of your TPT SEO strategy. Thanks again for tuning in. I'll talk to you soon. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, please share it with another teacher seller who would also find it helpful. For more resources on growing your TPT business, head to kristendoyle.co/TPT. Talk to you soon.